A very good evening to all of you. On behalf of TCS ION, I'm Mary Nadir and I'm going to be your host for this evening. I'm a program manager at TCS ION and I will be conducting a quick session with you on the topic of outcome-based curriculum. Outcome-based curriculum is a student-centric learning approach that helps teachers to design the course delivery and assessment with the end point in mind. Low employability of fresh engineering graduates coupled with absence of premier engineering institutions in global rankings confirm the malaise of poor quality of engineering education in India. There has been growing realization that unless quality is defined in terms of learning outcomes rather than grades and is assessed accordingly, it is difficult to improve the quality of engineering education in India. In this session, we have invited a very distinguished expert to talk about and understand the fundamental aspects of curriculum development, that is curriculum planning, curriculum design, curriculum implementation, and curriculum evaluation. It's my absolute pleasure and an honor to welcome and introduce our guest speaker, Professor Joshua Earnest. Professor Joshua Earnest is Professor and Head of Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering Education at the National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, which we usually refer to as NITTTR in Bhopal. He has 5 years of industrial experience and more than 35 years in engineering education, teacher training, consultancy, and research. Since 1996, he has been instrumental in introducing in India the outcome-based curriculum development and laboratory instruction in the engineering education system. He has co-authored the book Competency-Based Curriculum and several engineering educations related teacher training modules at NITTTR Bhopal for the benefit of engineering teachers. He is the coordinator of the MOOC's National Level Swayam Faculty Development Program in Fundamentals of Outcome-Based Curriculum for Engineering Education. It is being continuously offered twice every year since 2018 across the country. He is the chairman of the 2019 AICTE Outcome-Based Model Curriculum for Diploma in Electrical Engineering Committee. He is also the producer, author, and e-content editor of several learning units of 2020 AICTE NITTTR mandatory online teacher training programs to train newly appointed engineering teachers. He has conducted more than 500 training programs for teachers of NITs, engineering colleges, polytechnics, and technical teachers from overseas, including industry executives. He has coordinated several outcome-based curriculum development, engineering educational projects, published several international papers related to technology and engineering education. Even before COVID in 2020, he pioneered the online wind-powered technology training courses for educating engineering teachers since 2005. He has also authored books, Wind Power Plans and Project Development for the Industry, and another one on Wind Power Technology for the University. He has also been the Wind Power Education Consultant to overseas universities and organizations in USA, Sweden, China, and Namibia. He is a BSc in Electrical Engineering, an MTech in Heavy Electrical Equipment, Masters in Technical Education, and a PhD in Technical Education. We welcome you, Joshua, sir. I don't think I have ever been so out of breath introducing an extinguished faculty. It's our absolute pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for lengthy introduction about myself. I'm humbled by your introduction. I think I should go straight into the topic without wasting much of words about my introduction.
Sure.
Okay. So, outcome-based education. Okay, I'll just. The topic for today is fundamentals of outcome-based curriculum engineering. That's what TCS ION has given me, and it is an honor for me to present this to the august audience who's listening to me from far and wide. R.F. Meagher, or Robert F. Meagher, a renowned educationist, said, if you are not sure where you're going, you are liable to end up someplace else and not even know about it. So if you look at this is very much relevant to outcome-based education today. And this he said about 50 years back. Now, how is it different from the traditional education system? In the traditional education system, the teacher is the information dispenser and the students look forward to get everything from him or her. And as the teacher takes the students along, the students continue to learn. But in outcome-based education, the destination is known not only to the teacher, but it is also known to the student. How does this help? In the earlier slide, if you see, the teacher and the student will have to always continuously listen to the teacher or listen to the experiences, activities that he gives or she gives, and then go step by step. And the speed of learning is based on the teacher, how fast he goes. But in outcome-based education or outcome-based curriculum, the destination is known, or what the student will have to do at the end of the class, at the end of the course, and end of the education program is known to him in advance. Even before he joins for the program, he knows what he will have to display when he reaches the industry. So, if you know the destination, there are different ways of reaching it. You can reach by train. If you look at this slide, this is Gateway of India, and from wherever you want to reach that place, you can go by train, you can go by aeroplane, or you can go by car, or you can go by a motorbike, or you can walk it out. So different ways. What does this mean? It means that if I have to test an induction motor, I need not wait for the teacher to teach me. I can go to the internet, learn. I can go to the textbook and learn. I can watch videos and learn. So these are the different methods or ways where I can reach the destination. So outcome-based education makes the learning independent of the teacher. Of course, the teacher cannot be substituted, but then the student is well aware where he has to reach, and the teacher is also well aware where he has to take the students. Now, what is OBE, or outcome-based education? Informing students about the predetermined learning outcomes, LOs that we call, which is very common now all over India, which the students need to display after the teaching learning process. That is what is outcome-based education or learning. The second aspect is, the central aspect of outcome-based education is the alignment of the observable and measurable LOs with the TL processes, we call it, or teaching learning processes, with the assessment. That means whatever is the LOs, only that should be assessed. That's the meaning of alignment of the observable and measurable learning outcomes, or LOs. The next one is how teachers will teach and facilitate the students to display the predetermined learning outcomes. In outcome-based education, the outcomes are predetermined well in advance, and therefore the teachers will have to teach in order to take the students towards that LOs. Or in other words, the teachers have to teach in such a way that the students are able to display the learning outcomes. We'll talk a little bit more about it in the following slides. How will the teachers assess the achievement of the predetermined learning outcomes in the students? So these are the main things or main features which make outcome-based education unique. Now, what OBE is not, or what outcome-based education is and is not, this is what we have to see. Outcome-based education is an educational approach that focuses on the display of the learning outcomes. When you say display, that means if I say I know it, it does not hold good, because you cannot assess it. Unless I demonstrate it, exhibit it, or display it, then only the outcome-based education per se is outcome-based. Okay, and if you see and they have to do it successfully. That's the meaning of it. And when you display the learning outcomes, then only you will be certified, whether it's a diploma program, whether it's a UG program, or whether it's a PG program. Then what OBE is not? OBE is not what teachers teach, but what the students can do against only knowing due to their teaching. So I think it's very clear what OBE is. OBE is display of outcomes, while OBE is not teaching. So teaching has gone to the back, and student-centric or student demonstration or student exhibiting his performance is coming to the forefront. Let us look what it means. This boy tells his friend, "I taught my parrot to whistle." What does that friend say? "But I don't hear him whistling." He laughs and says, "Haha, I only said I taught him. I never said he learned to whistle." So that's what is the present teaching learning situation in today's, not only in school education, but also in higher education and engineering education. So we have to teach, or we teachers have to teach in such a way that the students is able to display the outcome that is predetermined, that is told to the students in advance. Knowing does not mean displaying. When I am able to do something, that means I know it. But the opposite is not true. If I say I know it, I may not able to do it. So in outcome-based education, it is the doing that is more important rather than the knowing. Okay, it's not what you teach, but it's what the students learn. That's most important, or the only important thing about outcome-based education. Now, how does it reflect on the curriculum? Outcome-based education involves the restructuring of the curriculum, the assessment, and the reporting of the practices in education to reflect the achievement of the higher order learning at the threshold level rather than accumulation of course credits. What does it mean? It means that the curriculum cannot be a 1 or 2 page syllabus. It should tell, or it should inform the student, or inform the teacher how it has to be treated so that the outcomes are exhibited or displayed. The second one, the curricula are to be designed to develop those industry identified competencies and the associated learning outcomes or LOs in the student so that they become employable. So what is the main part of outcome-based education? That you have to make the curriculum such a way that the students are employable. So what we have done in NITTTR Bhopal, we have defined industry in such a way that all the students know that it is not the job market alone. The term industry here means any enterprise in the community or corporate sector, wage employed or self-employed, which helps to earn one's livelihood. If this is the definition of an industry, the teachers will have to teach in such a way that it is not only wage employment, but self-employment should also be weaved into the curriculum for every course, maybe for every program and things like that. Now, for example, the industry requires competent workforce at all levels of occupation. What does it mean? That means the destination. Yesterday, we had seen in the earlier slide, what is the destination is we need competent engineers. The students should be able to should have the competency to do jobs in the industry. That's the main, right? And therefore, the university curriculum should address whether it's a diploma program, whether it's a UG program or a PG program, or they have to design the curriculum in such a way that the various competencies required by the industry is developed within the institute. Now, let us see what a competency is. A competency is a word which every industry keeps harping about, keeps telling about. They say we want competent people. So what is a competency? So we have defined it this way, that it's a macro level statement that indicates the integration of various skill sets related to the three domains of learning. That is cognitive domain, which means it's intellectual skills, psychomotor domain, hand skills, and affective domain, which is the heart skills, in order to successfully perform a job at the threshold level in the industry. Why the threshold level? How? Why not the expert level? That's what we are going to discuss in the next slide. Now, the competency is generally related to a single course that has to be developed by the academia. That means it consists of the cognitive skill, the practical skill, or the social skill. That means belonging to all the three domains in an integrated way so that one job can be done successfully. So it is a step-by-step process. What does it mean? It means that something is taught in the class, that is practiced in the laboratory or the field, along with the social skill. That means, when I mean social skill, it means team working, leadership, good housekeeping, cost consciousness. All those are social skills. So all the things weaved together is a competency. And this is what is required by the industry. So the academia has to teach in such a way that all these things are exhibited or demonstrated by the students right in the institution or in the college or in the university before they can. And if that happens, the industry would be ready to recruit them and they will be called employable. If they are not able to exhibit the competency within the institute, then we can say they are unemployable. That is why the industry says 25% of the engineers today are unemployable. And in order to overcome that, we need to have the competency-based or outcome-based curriculum. A competency-based curriculum is a variant or a better version of an outcome-based curriculum. Now, what is this competency attainment curve? If you look at, we were talking about competency attainment. When you say a student has acquired the competency, it means that she is able to perform the job by integrating different types of skills at the threshold level without damaging the equipment and hurting himself or herself, and also without wasting the raw material. This is what everybody wants, every industry wants, and naturally, every person would like all these qualities. So now how it happens? See, if it is an engineering college, it will be 4 years. If it's a diploma, it's 3 years. So within this 3 to 4 years, the academia has to teach in such a way that they are the minimum acceptable level by the industry. That is the threshold level. And that is called the competency. A competency is nothing but the minimum threshold level accepted by the industry. The industry also knows that they cannot produce expertise within the 3 to 4 years they are in the industry. So I'm talking of a PEO over here. The PEO, or the Program Education Objectives, as mentioned by National Board of Accreditation, that is, they are using the terms called PEOs, POs. I'll be talking about that in the right. So I just want to tell you that the outcome that is expected by the industry is at the threshold level, and that is acceptable to them. But expertise level can happen only when the engineering graduate or diploma graduate is working for 5 to 10 years in the industry. So this curve is very important for the academia to know how they have to teach or how they have to facilitate the learning to happen in the institution or in the university. Let me go ahead. However, the competency will be different for the UG level diploma level or ITI level occupations, and is identified by the industry as they are the stakeholders who take the work from the different personnel working in the industry. I hope that is understood well. That means the word competency for a UG level will be different, but for doing a job, the word competency or for a diploma level will be different. For an ITI level, it will be different. Now let us see how it goes. The expectation of the industry for the treatment of the problems are different for ITI, diploma, and undergraduate and the UG students. If you look at this, there are three distinct accords for the three streams of technical education. For the UG program, whether it's a BE or BTech, the curriculum has to be designed in such a way that the graduates coming out of the UG program will be able to solve this complex engineering problems, while under the Sydney Accord, the graduates coming from the diploma or diploma programs, they will have to solve broadly defined problems. And under the Dublin Accord, or you may call it a Dublin Accord, the technician or the ITI level craftsperson will have to solve well-defined problems. So how does it matter? It matters much because the curriculum will be distinct for a BE program. It will be very distinct for a technologist or a diploma program, and it will be very distinct for an ITI level program. Now what is happening is many of the curricula of diploma are diluted versions of the BE. That is why neither a UG graduate is employable, neither a diploma holder is employable for the industry. The industry has to spend more time, or maybe 1 or 2 years before they are acceptable to them, or they are able to bring them up to the acceptable level. Now, looking into the same again, what does a UG fellow have to do? He has to identify, formulate, research literature, and solve complex engineering problems, reaching substantiated conclusions using the first principles of mathematics and engineering sciences. So that is what a UG engineer has to do. Accordingly, the curriculum will have to be designed, and accordingly, the students who take admission for the UG program have to be told well in advance. This is what is expected of them by the industry. But when you look at the Sydney Accord, what the diploma holder has to do, or the technologist, the word technologist is now used for diploma holders. And what does it say? They have to solve only broadly defined problems. They don't have to solve complex engineering problems. So if they have to solve only broadly defined problems, engineering problems in the industry, when they reach there, their curriculum will be entirely different. The treatment of the topics will be different, and the way the teachers have to teach will be different. When it comes to ITI level, it is well-defined engineering problems. I'm not going into that at this moment into detail, but these two will have to be taken care in outcome-based curriculum, and that is where the success lies. NITTTR Bhopal has innovated several variants of outcome-based curricula beyond the NBA curriculum requirements. NBA is National Board of Accreditation, in which gives accreditation to various engineering programs. Right, and in the process of that, many terminologies have been misunderstood and because of that, for greater clarity to the stakeholders, we have come out with some definitions so that the engineering fraternity or the academia will be able to design the curricula and implement the curricula with less confusion. So let us start with learning outcome. What does learning outcome is one such terminology which is very, very loosely used. Let me put it. Learning outcome means program educational outcomes which the National Board of National Board of Accreditation says. And that is also a learning outcome, but it is at the universal level. Program outcomes or POs are at the global level, while the program specific outcomes are at the global level. The competencies at the macro outcome level. The practical outcomes or the PROs are at micro level, and this is how it looks like. Now, if you see, they are all learning outcomes, but the levels will be different, and accordingly the academia or the teachers will have to start teaching. Now let me illustrate in a different way. The same thing I'm putting across, that is, when the graduate from a UG program reaches the industry, he will become an expert, or the outcomes, that is the program educational outcomes or PEOs, which the NBA calls, that will happen only after he or she has been working for the next 4 to 5 years. So it is at the program level, right? And at the global level also, the professional specific outcomes or PSOs and program outcomes are there, followed by the macro level outcomes, which are job based outcomes at the course level, is termed as competencies. Then you have the meso level outcomes, which are task based outcomes, termed as course outcomes or COs. And then you have all the micro level outcomes or MIOs, which are at the which are required at the laboratory level, classroom level, and maybe the field level. So if you look at this, for every course there will be all these learning outcomes, but at different levels, at the micro level, at the course level, at the macro level, at the meso level, and at the global level and the PEO level. So all teachers should be aware of these levels, then only they will be able to design or teach so that all these outcomes are achieved. And this will happen not in one class, but across the whole program. These things will get repeated. Now coming to the next, what are the benefits of outcome-based curriculum? The first benefit is the graduates will be relevant to the industry. Employability will be enhanced, which is not happening now. So outcome-based is one of the solutions for enhancing the employability of the graduates. Greater clarity to the teacher, industry, and all stakeholders. The industry knows with what competencies or with what outcomes are the graduates coming to them for employment. Third, there's an international recognition and equivalence is there. Because when you're talking of outcomes which they want, even the internationally and globally, the industries would accept them, and the universities also, the transfer of learning or the transfer of degrees or the recognition of degrees can also come. That is what when I say equivalence means the UG degree which is being given by an Indian university will be acceptable by an overseas university as well as equivalent. But now sometimes they don't agree because we didn't have a mutual agreement, and that is where the Washington Accord has come, in which India is a signatory since 2014. Next, it's more directed. The curriculum is more directed and coherent. So these are the major benefits of any outcome-based curriculum. Then there is a continuous quality improvement also, because the curriculum will always be dynamic. That means it will not be static. That means after every 3 or 4 years, the curriculum is reviewed, and therefore there will be a continuous quality improvement of the outcomes that is required. Now, if you look at the basic differences between a traditional and outcome-based curriculum is there is minimum involvement of the stakeholders in the curriculum. Who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders are the major stakeholder is the student, then the teacher, then the examiner, the industry, the university, the society. All these are the stakeholders who are worried about what is happening to the engineering education system. While in outcome-based curriculum, maximum involvement of stakeholders is there. Let me put it on a lighter side. Even now, TCS is really interested in what is this outcome-based curriculum about, and the public is more inquisitive. What is this all about? Therefore, we have all this clamor for what outcome-based is and how it should go. Secondly, not much thought is given about employment in traditional education, but in outcome-based, employability is the focus. Number three, there is a gap between the formal education and the career requirements, while in outcome-based, competencies are identified for the respective professions. Fourth one, exit expectations of the syllabus not known to the students, while in outcome-based education, the exit expectations of the curriculum is always known to the students much in advance. So the students, even if there are no classes, especially in the pandemic, when classes are online, when you have the exit expectations or the competencies are known to the students, the outcomes are known to the students, self-learning, self-directed learning will be there in a very, very big way. Next, the input-based teacher-centered, where the teacher instructs and the student memorizes. In outcome-based, the outcome-based centered learning, where the students display the outcomes after the learning. That's the basic. There, the teacher is teacher-centric, while in outcome-based, it is student-centric. Now,
thank you, sir. I think I had quite a few questions in my mind, and you have already answered some questions, like what is OBC with reference to engineering education. Thank you for explaining that in very much of detail. There is a saying that hearing is not the same as listening.
Yes.
What you had mentioned that knowing is not the same as doing.
Yes.
Practical education and just knowing something from books is different. And right now we all had a look at the difference between the traditional education system and outcome-based education. I think these things are quite clear as to where we are going wrong when we say that 25% of the engineers in the country are not employable. That's a huge problem for the country, and it's a huge problem for all the students who opt to learn engineering as well. Because I remember there was a time when in India where we needed so many engineers and we had very few colleges. Now if you look at it, every 2 kilometer radius you've got an engineering college. What exactly distinguishes these engineering colleges and the students passing out of colleges boils down to how they are taught, and that I think brings the open this OBC or OBE, outcome-based curriculum, much more important. Let me just ask you a quick question. Why is all the clamor right now for OBC or OBE in the academia and industry? Because earlier that was not the case. It was just like, we've got a syllabus and we've got 6 months, and we've got in 6 months, let us cover all the syllabus and we are done with the work. That's how the semester-wise pattern used to work. But suddenly we are all into outcome-based, you have to learn practicality. So how did the evolution happen? Just teaching.
Just on the lighter side, this is what it is. It's not right. That website I've given there down there. So this is what is happening in the UG and diploma programs. So because of this, the outcome-based curriculum became more and more came into, and the government was very much concerned, and therefore this thing happened. The major concern was unemployable graduates. So because of that, NBA has come out with this model in which they have the vision mission, the program educational objectives, that is the PEOs which I was talking about, the program outcomes, the program specific outcomes, all these, this is a very, very vast area in which NBA or the AICT, All India Council for Technical Education, has taken it up in a big way, how to improve the quality of engineering education. Therefore, these things have been put into place, and the entire curriculum will have to be restructured or re-engineered, so that if you look at this, you first develop the curriculum down, and then you have to teach so that the students attain those outcomes. So all these are outcomes. You see, this is an outcome, this is an outcome, all are learning outcomes, but at different levels. Right from the micro level to the macro level, the students have to acquire them and display them. It's not only acquisition, it is basically display or exhibiting the outcomes by doing the jobs, by testing the equipment, by designing certain things that they have to show by actually doing it, not only knowing it in the head. That is where outcome-based curriculum has come to the focus. Now, Washington Accord, I have already told, it is an international accreditation agreement for professional engineering and academic degrees. It was, and we became a signatory, India became a signatory in 2014. And after that, it has caught pace. And now the whole country is going for outcome-based curriculum. Now, in the government of India or the NBA is not giving, or AICT is not giving recognition to any new programs unless they are outcome-based. And therefore, now everybody is starting to learn how to design outcome-based curriculum, how to implement outcome-based curriculum, how to evaluate. I would say there are 4 stages in curriculum design: planning, designing, implementation, and evaluation. So, and all this thing is very new to the academia. So we as NITTTRs, we have been training teachers right across, and because of that, if I go back, this is one MOOC which I have designed and which is being offered for the last 2 years. Twice in a year it is being offered on the Swayam platform. So those who want to have a detailed knowledge about outcome-based curriculum, they can enroll in this course. It is almost free excepting for the certification. Just like any other edX and Coursera, it is like that. And for a further thing, I have authored 2 more books. I have authored several books. One is Outcome-Based Curriculum for Engineering Education, which is a handbook for engineering colleges, teachers, and institutions, and Outcome-Based Curriculum for Higher Education. So these books are available by NITTTR Bhopal. It has been published, those who want, and they are about 200 to 250 pages. So it's a handbook. If you use it, you will know much more in detail how is it. And this is another course. And there is National Institute for Technical Teacher Training is a website now where we are training all these things again and again in through different modes, different media. Outcome-based education is being taught, so you can get into that. Well, now this is where the industry role comes in. That's what I just wanted to say. Industry has a great role to play in outcome-based education, because the engineering college system, the polytechnic system, the ITI system will have to ask the industry what are the competencies that has to be developed by the academia and how it has to be taught. Because the technical education is, if it's a system, the education is a supra system, and the others are subsystems. So this has to be understood by the fraternity academia and as well as the industry. So I would say it is a handshake between the industry and the academia, which is very, very important now for outcome-based curriculum or outcome-based education. Yes, I think I have tried to answer certain things. Now, what's the other thing that
Thank
you
you, sir.
Yeah. There's another strategy.
Yes, I think.
Yes, Mary, you can please ask.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I
Yes.
just wanted to say something on the previous slide that you had shared.
Yes.
The
Which
one
one?
that you had mentioned, where it's a handshake between the industry and academia.
Yeah.
We have conducted some previous programs, and the common theme that has been there is always a gap between what happens after the student passes out and goes into an industry. Before they are in the academy, they are learning about something. That there's a gap that years. I think this outcome-based learning or outcome-based curriculum is something that is definitely going to help for the students and especially for the institutions to know preparing their students for. So I think that way it's a very beneficial idea that we have implemented. My next question actually to you
before that, I just want to say. Before that, I just want to say that outcome-based education, outcome-based curriculum is one strategy for improving the employability. The gap between what the industry wants, that is reduced. That's number one. There is another strategy which I have suggested is something where the industry can take a lead role with like-minded deemed universities to begin with in educating the community to go for this. And what is that? Let me show you. There are two major kinds of industries. You know about the small scale, medium scale, large scale industries. But we have categorized industries into two major categories. One is, we call it the MMS type of industries. That is the manufacturing, marketing and service type of industries, and where 90% of the engineers get employment, whether it's diploma or degree, and the research and development type of industries, where the 10% of the engineers get employment. Now, if you look at this type of industry, that means two type of UG programs are eminent or required so that the employability will increase. One is, we call it the engineering technology programs or BTech programs. The other one is the engineering programs. So in both these, in the engineering program curriculum or BE, now it is all mixed up. It's there's hardly, people just go on naming the graduate programs BE or BTech in whichever they want. I mean, they really do not know the difference, but there's a big difference. In BE programs, the focus of the curriculum will be research and development, while in engineering technology programs, that is BTech, the focus will be on the manufacturing, marketing and service type of outcomes. The outcomes will be different for BTech programs. The outcomes will be different for BE programs. This difference has to come. It has not happened in India so far. Now it is high time we thought about it, and it is matching with the NEP 2020 for the improvement of engineering education. And this I had published this paper 2 years back in the University News Journal. So those who really want to know about this, please go to this. On the internet, you put Joshua Earnest and see what it is. 2 baccalaureate programs are necessary for India, and it is there in this journal in 2018. So this is the second strategy. There are 2 strategies. One is outcome-based curriculum. The second one is, there will be 2 types of programs. And this, if some university takes it up, let me tell you, and the industry can handshake or partner with it, definitely 100% employment of all those students coming out from that program, such type of programs. Yes.
Thank you, sir. I think even I was aware of this distinction between BE and BTech. It always used to sound just similar to me. I think I've got my answer as to what is the difference between them. Thank you.
So you can read that paper, that will be there. Sorry, please read that paper.
Yes. You have already discussed, rather briefed on the strategies that could be adopted. And let me just move on to the next question that I had in my mind. Yes. What are the different variants of outcome-based curriculum?
Yes, that's what I was about to tell you. NITTTR Bhopal, let me tell you, has been a pioneer in different types of outcome-based curriculum. Right from the 1970s, if you see this model, it was called those days, we did the job analysis survey, and the Western region we brought out the objective-based curriculum, in which the objectives are nothing but outcomes. And this objective-based curriculum was propounded by Benjamin Bloom, one of the educationists way back in the 1950s. And what Benjamin Bloom propounded that time, NITTTR Bhopal in the 1960s propounded that, and we brought about outcome-based curriculum. That time it was called objective-based curriculum. It's a variant of that in the 1970s. In the 1990s, we brought out the skill-based curriculum. That is another variant of outcome-based curriculum. And this also we have experimented and done. And in mid-90s, NITTTR Bhopal published a paper in which I was the author of competency-based curriculum development for technical education. And this was, and for the first time in India, St. Xavier's Technical Institute in Mahim, Mumbai was the first one to adopt this variant of outcome-based curriculum for their diploma programs. And let me tell you, till today, they have 100% placement of their students. Father DeMello was there that time, the principal, and he had invited me to invited NITTTR Bhopal to get this experiment done. So that was how it was done. So this is the model for the competency-based curriculum, where we do an occupational profiling. That means we went to the industry, asked what the diploma holders need or the graduate holders need, did the job profiling, and the PEO, that is, the program educational objectives were understood. From there, the PSO, which now NBA talks about, that time I'm talking of 20 years back, we did that. The competencies were identified, the course outcomes, that is COs, were identified, the practical outcomes were identified, and the topics were done. Now you can see one very interesting difference. Here, from the outcomes, the topics and the subtopics are derived. But generally what happens when curriculum development, when curriculum is revised or syllabus is revised in most of the universities, they take up the books and take the topics from those books and make the curriculum, which is not at all right. What has to be done? It has the topics and subtopics have to flow down from the outcomes. That is why outcome-based curriculum, outcome-based education is important. If you see this model, you can see how the outcomes from the macro level, from the universal, this is the universal level, this is the global level outcome, this is the macro level outcome, this is the meso level outcome, which I talked about earlier, and these are the micro level outcomes. And when all of these things are done, the topics and the subtopics emerge out. It is not that then we look into where these topics are available. This may be available in some book, which you call as reference books, or it may be available on the internet, and there may not be books at all. Then that means you have to write books in order to have those courses. So it is the other way around. So this is one model which we have experimented, which we have published also, and which NBA is taking up now. This is the latest model that we have done. This is the competency focused. Earlier it was competency based, now it is competency focused. This model is now being followed in the whole state of Maharashtra. Then 450 polytechnics have adopted it. Now other engineering colleges approached us. We have shared our expertise. We have shared these models, how they can be developed. Now, looking at this model, it looks simple, but when you actually develop a curriculum, there are many intricacies that has to be taken care, and that is what we are offering training. So NITTTR Bhopal is offering training programs how to develop outcome-based curriculum, competency-based focused curriculum, so that the gap between what the industry wants and the academia is reduced and 100% employability comes. I would say 100% employability should be our focus of every curriculum. And for that, outcome-based or competency-focused curriculum is the answer. Secondly, BE and BTech should be separated. There should be two types of engineering degrees. It's that I have published, that we have proposed in that paper. So these are the four ways which are there. Yes.
Yes, thank you, sir. I
Yes.
think you have just mentioned the variants of how you have planned the outcome-based curriculum strategies. But my question to you next is, after this planning and the development of the curriculum, how is it implemented? How is outcome-based curriculum implemented?
Okay, fine. Now, first of all, I'll just rush through that. There are basically 4 stages of curriculum development. The entire thing is called curriculum development: curriculum planning, curriculum designing, curriculum implementation, curriculum evaluation. So earlier what I mentioned was about the designing aspect. Now the question that you asked is very right: how to implement it? Fine. Okay, I'll go a bit fast because we are running short of time. I'll go straight to the
It's okay, so you can quickly talk about it. I mean, don't need to rush through it. We'll just shortly speak about all the things.
Yeah. See, for implementing the curriculum, there are 4 basic components. One is outcome-based teaching learning. Second, what are the resources required? Third is, what is the industry role? And fourth is outcome-based assessment, or OBA. So outcome-based OBC has 4 components. OBTL is outcome-based teaching learning, resources required, industry role, and OBA, or outcome-based assessment. So once you teach this, then only you can assess it. So the outcomes are clear. Now, how do you do it? Now, suppose a graduate has to test an induction motor in the industry. If that is there, for testing, what are the practicals required? Accordingly, the practicals has to be designed. In order to testing, he has to know how to handle the equipment. So you have to design a practical for that. So it is not that you have a list of practicals from the university, that is it. See, university will give some practicals, but the outcome will actually decide the practicals. So there may be a slight gap what the university is giving now. So you have to go in for some redesigning of the practicals so that outcome is achieved by the students. So the practicals, there will be a change the way in the practicals are done. That is number 1. Number 2, in order to do those practicals, what is the underpinning knowledge required to do that practical? So that underpinning knowledge you have to teach in such a way so that the student, the graduate is able to test the induction motor using the underpinning knowledge. That is the theory that you follow. Now, what is happening presently in the traditional education system is both these things are detached. They will go and do the practical, whatever is listed by the university, they will teach something. That means earlier you were teaching theory for theory's sake. In outcome-based curriculum, you have to teach theory for performance sake. That is the slogan. So in outcome-based curriculum, you have to teach for performance sake, not theory for theory's sake. Okay, that is number 1. Number 2, you have to assess also according to what the outcome has been given. That means if it is testing of the induction motor, as I told you, your question should be designed in such a way that whether the student will be able to know the procedure how to test, that has to be designed. And when you ask questions in the exam, the questions should be in application based, not only understanding based. That is when we talk about the Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive domain taxonomy, in which you have the lower order thinking skills and the higher order thinking skills. If you have to go in outcome-based curriculum, the major focus of your teaching will be to develop the higher order thinking skills. That is the HOTS, you call it. And your assessment should also be to test those acquisition or the display of the higher order thinking skills. So that is where your teaching will change, your examination pattern will be changed. Let me make it more focused. Earlier, before the outcome-based curriculum was launched in Maharashtra, that is 2017, they were having questions what, when, why, and how. That means the 5 W's and H was used for every question. Now they have totally taken off with that, and all their questions will start with action verbs. So when the action verbs are there, the ambiguity of answering also goes. I'll give you an example. If I tell what is an induction motor, the question grammatically is correct. But what will the answer be? If there are 50 students in the class, one student will write what are the parts of the induction motor. Another student will write how does it work. A third student will write what are the materials used in induction motor. That means every student will interpret that question in a different way, and the teacher will have a hell of a time assessing them and giving them marks. But if you are going to use action verbs, then it will be very, very clear. For example, if I say, describe the construction of an induction motor, all the 50 students will write only about the construction and not about the working. If I say, explain the working, then all the 50 students will write only the explanation and not the description of the work. So, outcome-based curriculum talks about action verbs, and all these 5 W's and H questions, especially in the examinations, will have to go off. And that is a major change that has to come into play. So when we talk, that is when you are assessing with action verbs, your teaching will also be with action verbs. Now you will tell the students in every class, you will tell students, we are going to learn about the construction of the induction motor. So the students will know that whatever the teacher is going to teach, the teacher is going to teach about the construction, what are the different parts, how it is kept, how it is connected, and things like that. So action verbs comes to the focus in outcome-based curriculum, whether it is an outcome, whether it is a question. So this is the major difference that will come not only in the teaching learning, but in the assessment as well. And that is where many of the teachers are still struggling. And we have to ask, now let me tell you, what is describe the induction motor. The industry is not at all interested in description of the motor. That is the first step. What they are interested in is how will you troubleshoot the induction motor. And therefore that is a higher order thinking skill, and that is a higher order practical as well. So your teaching learning will not be, you will start from description, but you have to take the students higher and higher till he reaches that level before he graduates out. So your question pattern will totally change, has to change. Otherwise, still 25% only will be employable. They will not be employable. So you have to change your question pattern. You have to change your teaching style. Another thing, you don't have that much time to teach. That was what the teachers will tell. Well, now the role of the teacher is not teaching. It will be as a counselor and facilitator. Especially this pandemic has shown that. You have to tell the students how to troubleshoot. You go and watch that video, or you go and study that MOOC, or give him a motor, go to the lab and do it. So you have to give different types of experiences. You have to use videos, you have to use demonstrations. That means your teaching style will not be lecture only. You have to use different types of teaching styles. Now it is said that there are more than 150 teaching methods. We are hardly using 2 or maybe 1 sometimes. So you have to have a mix of all the teaching methods in order that outcome-based curriculum implementation becomes successful. I think I've talked a lot. Maybe
Thank you, sir.
it's a very, very big area, I mean, within the short time, it's difficult to
And
express
plus,
everything.
you've stored up knowledge for I think more than 30 years. So
Yeah.
you are just trying to give us as much as you can in the limited time that we have.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think this was very, very useful even for me. We have talked quite a lot, starting from the benefits. What is OBC? What are the benefits of outcome-based curriculum? What is the difference between traditional and outcome-based curriculum, and the development process and the implementation aspects as well.
That's right.
I think we could just wrap the session up. I would just like to ask you for your final closing remarks on this topic, because you have been working on this particular model for quite a long time. You've been training various colleges and universities and professors also on this particular model. So, what would you like to say to close off the session for all the academics who have joined us today?
Look at this slide first of all. You see the outcomes given by the industry is that problem solving. For a UG program, it will be complex problems. For a diploma program, it will be broadly defined problems. For an ITI level, it will be well-defined problems. Now what is happening is, though the industry would have given you the outcomes, if your teaching is still at the facts and concepts at the lower level things, you will not be able, the graduates will not be employed. Your assessment is also at the very, very lower level, right? So you have to go up to, look at this slide. That means in order to match the outcomes, your instruction will have to be using all the various different types of teaching learning methods, as well as the assessment should be to assess the outcomes defined by that. So my closing remark is, your teaching learning should match, your assessment should match the outcomes given by the industry, and they have to have a good handshake. They should be in close, I would say, dialogue with the industry, so that the graduates who come out will be employable, and which will be useful for the industry, for the society and the country at large. So
thank
this
you,
was my closing slide.
Thank you very much, sir, for quite an insightful session. Thank you, everybody, for joining today this evening. It was wonderful to have everyone with us as well. Just to close this session, there's a very old proverb that we usually learn since we were in kindergarten: practice makes everybody perfect. We take it for granted. So every time now when you think about learning something, don't just know it, learn it, do it, and practice it with the outcomes in mind, and that is definitely going to make your life easier and everyone else around you as well. Thank you, everyone. A very good evening to everybody. Until we see you next time, this is me, Mary, signing off, along with Professor Joshua. Thank you and bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.